Universal Studios just asked me to bring all of these minions to a Minion Festival. But the problem is these don't even work right now. And the festival is in 10 days. Oh, this is gonna be a disaster.
So I made these minions 2 years ago because I wanted to prank my town.
So that means I haven't turned them on in 2 years.
And I literally drove 3 hours last night here to my parents' house to snatch these things out of a closet. And I'm positive they don't work.
We got one of the minions right here. Let's see if this works. Oh my gosh! Okay, I'm gonna turn them all on.
So somehow, they still work.
There's no way!
But that doesn't really matter much, because even in their prime, they fell over constantly, ran into every wall, they couldn't go farther than 10 feet without going out of range of the controller. But for the YouTube video, I was just happy they didn't explode or something. But since I'm taking them to a professional event with hundreds of other people, I have to fix all of these problems, especially because they wanted me to cause some chaos with the minions. And when I tried to do that for the original video, it was kind of a fail, and the minions didn't make it farther than 3 feet without falling or getting stuck. But here's the craziest part of this whole thing. The main thing Universal asked for was to have them walk as a group down the red carpet.
I spent 8 months building these guys and trying to get them to actually walk as a group, and I never got it anywhere close to perfect.
Now I have to get that working and fix all of their other problems in only 10 days. And before I had a chance to start fixing them, I remembered that Universal asked me to build a whole new minion named James, which is basically impossible since it would take me 3 weeks to build another one. And I might be dumb, but only mostly dumb, because I realized that James looks like this boy, but with a blue eye, some hairs I made with adjustable wire and tubing that I painted black, and he's also got some paint splatters on himself. And ta-da, they'll never know what I did. Hopefully. And after that, I started experimenting with new wheels on the minions because the current ones are so small they get stuck on everything. And they're also stuck in place, so they don't turn very well. But these spin all the way around. And after messing around with a bunch of different sizes, I ended on these and designed and 3D printed a connector for them to fit right onto the minions. So after painting all the swivel wheels black so they're more hidden, I sliced off the old ones and added the new wheels onto every single minion. But funny enough, this decision almost completely ruined this entire project later on. I just realized I made 10 minions originally, but there's only 8 right here.
Oh right, I punted one off my shed roof, and then I gave another one to my grandparents. Let's just hope that Universal doesn't notice.
Then I replaced the main brain of the minions and the thing they use to receive signals from the controller so that they now have a range of 150 feet. The other thing I had to replace was this. So to get the group to walk in the same direction, I used what's essentially a compass. The issue is it's super unreliable and never worked well, but it was also a super cheap component. So I bought ones that were 4 times more expensive and installed those along with the new brains into every single minion, which took 2 days because I had to keep troubleshooting everything and recode all of the minions.
Gosh, just look at these guys. So basically what this means is I spent 4 days getting the minions to do something that they already did, but it's better.
Oh, depression.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Then I spent 3 days replacing a part that gave me so many problems. And that was this, a distance sensor I put at the front of every single minion. It was supposed to keep them from running into each other when in group mode and keep them from running into walls and obstacles when they're walking around in random mode. But I think because the way that sensor works by using sound waves to find the distance, they all kind of interfered with each other and the sensors never really worked and thought they were sensing stuff when there wasn't there and sometimes wouldn't sense stuff. For the random mode, they worked terribly. Not to mention, they're kind of ugly. So I removed the old sensors and filled in the old holes and cut 3 new holes into the front and 2 sides of the minions. Then wired and installed the new sensors, which are way smaller and they shouldn't interfere with each other.
So with the sensors on this guy, I should be able to put him next to this one and they should be able to walk together and never run into each other.
I continued to fine tune it and then installed the sensors into the rest of the minions.
I finally got all 3 distance sensors wired and installed into every single one of the minions. Do I look like death? Because I certainly feel like it.
With only 2 days left, I had worked 8 days, literally non-stop every day, and managed to upgrade every important component. I hadn't programmed in the randomized walking mode yet, but I wanted to test them out in group mode, because now they can use the new compass, the wheels, and the distance sensors to keep them walking perfectly as a group. Here we go. they were somehow even worse than before. I was so confused, and it kind of felt like I just spent a week grinding only to make them even worse than they started. So I spent the entirety of that day trying to figure out why they were so terrible with zero luck. I spent 8 hours of this final day experimenting and trying everything. It was so confusing. Sometimes when I'd place a minion down, it would veer off right. Sometimes that same one would go left, and sometimes it would go perfectly straight. I thought maybe the compass was the problem because of magnetic interference or something, so I disabled it. Didn't fix it. Then I thought the sensors might be glitching, so I disabled them. Still terrible. And I came to realize the problem was caused by the last thing I ever would have suspected. The wheels. Since they swivel all the way around, sometimes when you place them down, they point in a direction and make the minions start off by turning because it can't go straight with rotated wheels. And that direction will be different every time they're placed down. So to fix this, all I had to do was drill screws into the sides of the wheels. And that would limit how much they could rotate, which would make the turning a little worse, but it made the amount they drifted off significantly less. And that fix only took me a couple hours. And I had spent like 20 hours wasted trying to fix all the wrong things. The problem was I still had a lot more work to do. So that night I ended up pulling an all-nighter because I had to leave the next day, and I still needed to create a bunch of charging cables since I forgot to buy some earlier. I had to touch up some of the paint, and then worst of all, I realized I never coded in the randomized walk, which was a feature that I promised Universal would work. I continued to work on the randomized code late into the morning, and at that point I started stressing pretty bad because I was out of time and I had to pack up everything and start the 3-day road trip all the way down to LA, and with so much work left to do. And day 2 of the road trip, my AC went out in 90-degree weather.
I'm actually dead inside this time.
Day 3, I got the AC fixed and made it to LA, and at this point, I was thinking, you know, it's just a minion event. It's really not that big of a deal, and no one's gonna care if my minions are kind of terrible. Well, that's when I noticed giant minion signs and stuff everywhere, and it started to feel like this was a lot more important than I was thinking. So the stress was back on. But thankfully, at the various hotels on the way, I was able to experiment and start to code in the randomization for James. And the day of the event, I spent the remaining hours leading up to it getting the randomized code as good as possible and coding that into every single one of the minions. However, I also had to charge them all up, and I didn't have much space to test them out. Not to mention, I didn't know if the changes to the code I made would ruin the walking as a group, but it was too late for more tests and we were already running late to the event. So I packed everything up and just hoped it wasn't going to be the biggest fail of my life.
Let's hope this isn't a complete disaster.
This is the moment the last 10 days of grinding have been building up to. And I set them all up on the red, actually yellow carpet, and all they needed to do was walk straight down it. Somehow, they were actually working. We were also able to get one of the actors to hold up James. James was getting famous. Then we decided it was time to cause some major chaos with them, so we released them in random mode, so I had zero control over them. Even though they smacked into everyone, they managed to not fall over and were actually doing a pretty good job at maneuvering around. The minions are absolute legends.
Guys, look! Endless bananas, guys! Come on! Come on! Get in here!
It works so good.
Make sure to get your tickets for Minions and Monsters, which is in theaters right now.